Today, I'm going to talk about business, in particular operations, and something, frankly, I've kind of sucked at that I've found and received some needed feedback from one of my employees that was actually very helpful, and I appreciated them sharing this. He talked about how, in a lot of times, management is a gift that is bestowed upon someone, so to speak, for tenure, like like, oh, you've been here so long, you should go to the management role. And how that often the times is just setting someone up to fail. Or it's because they're the top performer. Hey, you're our top salesperson. Here's the gift of becoming a manager. Now go teach and manage the team on how to do it. Hey, welcome back. This is Rick Foz with the Drive Podcast. We talk about business, investing, and acquisitions. Today, I'm going to talk about business, in particular operations, and something, frankly, I've kind of sucked at that I've found and received some needed feedback from one of my employees that was actually very helpful, and I appreciated them sharing this. So one of the things that I've found in my own journey is growing, as a leader and a manager, I had a lot of holes that needed to be filled. And one thing that is tricky, especially with this growing business, is been setting an idea in front of someone that you're thinking about, hey, this is the direction I want to take your role. Right. And so I've unfortunately done this a few times with a couple people, and I feel really guilty about how it played out. So what I mean by that is, let's think about, so we're growing, right? And we're excited about the growth and where we're going. And I'm thinking, okay, hey, this is the direction we're going. I think that I want to, would you be interested in this type of role? Because I think we're going to expand into there. And they're like, yeah, it sounds interesting. I'm getting excited about it. But then, things keep going because you're a small company. Sometimes you're pivoting strategy and changing directions. And so as we've gotten, along, it's like, oh, well, actually, we're not doing that anymore because our strategy's changed and we're kind of pivoting. Thankfully, a lot of the people who have unfortunately done this to have been very courteous and okay with me and patient with me, I guess is probably the right word, for my mistakes doing this. But I've done this now a few times where I've messaged out to the team of hey, we're going to have so-and-so take on this new role. And yeah, great. And then, okay, well, now we've gone a couple months and the strategy pivoted and we didn't do that. And it's okay, well, why did we make this big announcement? Nothing happened. So embarrassing for me, probably puts them in an awkward place. Probably the team's like, what the hell, what's he doing? Just really, really bad management and leadership on my part. And so what I've figured out now, and I'm excited to do this now with anyone who's ever moving into a leadership position or type of management roles, getting crystal clear, writing down in a document, what are and there's probably a bunch of people are gonna be like, yeah, no shit, obviously, but sorry, this is a learning lesson for me, writing it down crystal clear, what are the roles, responsibilities, and expectations. And I was talking with someone and I was saying, I think what's fair about this is even if the strategy or things change, because it will, business, that is one thing we need to get comfortable with. Things are going to constantly be changing, but when it does, we then just revisit that document, right? So we can still execute on the things that we're doing now, and things may change in the future, but now we can revisit that document and talk about, okay, how related to the roles and responsibilities will that change again? What needs to be messaged effectively to the team? How will it change compensation? All of those things. And that always needs to be in writing with a specific start date, with a specific expectations that are being met. And frankly, what I said to them is, and now if those expectations aren't being met, that's the reason that we would make a change to your role, right? This is not just hey, it's bestowed upon you indefinitely. And I heard this feedback. I think it was from Tommy Mello's podcast. He does A1 Garage. It's a really successful home services company. And he was interviewing a talent acquisition specialist. And he talked about how, in a lot of times, management is a gift that is bestowed upon someone, so to speak, for tenure, oh, you've been here so long, you should go to the management role. And how that often the times is just setting someone up to fail. Or it's because they're the top performer. Hey, you're our top salesperson. Here's the gift of becoming a manager. Now go teach and manage the team on how to do it. And how ineffective that typically is, right? That's not how a manager position is supposed to be. It's supposed to be, hey, you found someone who's a really good trainer and they like training and they're effective at it, so move them to the management role so that they can effectively train the next group. And one of the things that I sucked at was not really outlining that very clear responsibility and function and what those expectations were. And so what has ended up being a really good conversation is, okay, now as we go forward, outlining that, documenting it, putting it very crystal clear of what we're trying to do. And then that way we can roll it out effectively. We can build upon it effectively and do that. So horrible process that I've had before, obviously, though, have now led to some learning lessons that I'm really excited about as we go through this. So this has played actually a role, not just in our managers, but now in kind of really everything. So we started out with our apprentice program as one of the things that got me super excited. I've talked about it on previous episodes, but setting up a level system. So we have four distinct levels to our apprentice program, really on the John Padilla side. And the Zoom Drain side, we actually have an apprentice program that we really haven't leveraged effectively. So as I kind of came to the conclusion as we were thinking about this, I was like, okay, well, all of our roles need this. It just isn't just a, hey, here's the manager and you got to do this. It's really everyone should have, hey, what are the expectations of the role? What are the benchmarks that you need to hit to be successful in the role? And that way we can hold people accountable to it and they can hold us accountable to it. Like, hey, if you're asking me to sell $100,000 of work a month, but you're only giving me 20 jobs, how am I supposed to possibly do that, right? So they can hold us accountable to it. We can hold them accountable to it, making sure that those standards are met and performed upon. And I think that was really an eye-opener for me. It's sad to admit, like this sounds like a no-brainer, but as I'm thinking about how we grow and take it to the next level, having those expectations in writing, documented for every role and responsibility is going to be one of the big priorities that I'm working on as we close out the year, so that everyone has a crystal clear vision of what the expectations are as we go into the new year. I think for a long time, it's just like, hey, obviously I'm a plumber and the expectation is like to perform the best I can, provide good customer service and do things up to code. Yeah, sure. But now as we're thinking about the roles and responsibilities and how do you advance and how do you get things to the next level, we can do a much better job, I think, supporting the team and doing that. And that was one of the things I was excited about as we think about the manager position, is their influence in doing that. But they now need a crystal clear vision of what are we asking our technicians to do so they can also hold them accountable. We'd be setting the manager up to fail if they didn't have those benchmarks and conversations available as well. So it's really an eye-opening thing for me, of even though we were, and I think sometimes you may fall into that trap of, oh, we're a small company, everyone just does a little bit of everything. We expect that. Of one, like, you're not setting someone up for success, and no duh, why would you have success if that was the case, right? But also, like, when they think about their career path, one of the feedbacks, frankly, was like, why would I want to become a manager? Like, there's no, like, you haven't even really showcased to us what that does or what their duties are. And I could totally understand that looking back on how I've handled things before. I certainly wouldn't have wanted to be a manager under me, and, the crazy changes of directions, the vagueness of what my roles and responsibilities are, the uncertainty. So big learning lesson for me as I, try to continue to develop with my own career and journey. And it was some very needed, candid feedback, which I always appreciate. Like, I appreciate the guys who will come to me and say, like, hey, you kind of suck at this, and it's sometimes not always easy to hear, but like, you can't get better if you don't hear it. And that was really telling. And one of the things I'm probably most excited about as we go into the new year. But I figured I'd share because I think you hopefully can expedite the process of getting to where you want to be by streamlining some of these things a little bit sooner. And it's probably not too early to start. I mean, really, with every role and responsibility, I want to come into next year having something documented on what the benchmarks are, expectations are, and then also what expectations are of us to support and make sure that they're successful. So anyways, I hope that's helpful. If you did enjoy it, or if you have any questions, please drop a comment, because I do want to hear from you on what's worked and what hasn't. And please go ahead and like and subscribe to stay in the loop on future episodes. Thanks for coming by. See you next one.